Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America and English.
Oh, what a strike! Club America!
Your hosts for today are Ivan Pineda, Cristian Rosendo, Alexis Juarez, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Go! Now let's hit the field and start the show.
America!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. I'll be your host today, not Ivan, because Ivan is on dad duties now. And so joining me today is none other than California's finest, way above Ivan Pineda, Chris. Chris, how you doing today?
Good, bro. Good. A little sleepy because the weather we've been having. Like Ivan said, we always talk about the weather, but it's literally been weird weather this year here in California. But yeah, shout out to Ivan real quick. Like you said, he's in daddy duties or whatever. Shout out to our boy Benjamin.
Today we're going to be doing a lot of talking of, we'll kind of necessarily touch and kind of recap the season as a whole. We'll talk about the rumors that have been circulating around the club, and just me and Chris are going to play a quick little game at the end of buy or sell with Bathroom's recent interview he had on what show was it, Chris?
It was To the End. I don't know the name of the show, but it was there.
Well, that's good enough for me. Yeah, Banos is a recent interview on Through the Internet. But Chris, obviously not the way the season wanted to end for us. So obviously it's a fracaso. But overall, just looking at the season as a whole from the start to the end, what are your thoughts initially?
On the end or just the whole thing?
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Well, it feels like just any other season since Piojo left, if we're being honest. I think throughout the season you feel, this team feels different, this and that, and then it's just always something, right? And that's really how it feels. I think it has gotten to a point where we're not really judging this team off of what they do inside the season, but they're like legit what their strengths and weaknesses, right? I think now we're just going to be pointing out all year long that defense, right? Or little minor things that coaches do or don't do. And I think it's sad, right? Because we're there. We're almost there. It's like we see the finish line, but we're not. And it's very frustrating. But I do think we have the team and the right players to get across from it. It's just gonna have to take that extra little step, that extra push, and that like those players need to really want it, and for us to just get there,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. But obviously there's been a lot of frustration too around certain players within the club, and it's just to me, I kind of question and wonder, if we even had the right players to begin with, because this roster hasn't really changed that much over time, if I'm being quite honest. I don't know if you can agree with that. Like, obviously, there's been some additions, there's been some departures, but really it just kind of seems like this has been the same roster and almost the same starting 11 for what maybe like the past 3 or 4 seasons. Like, it just doesn't seem like nothing's getting done with the roster to improve it. And then obviously just going through the coaches and stuff like that. Obviously after Piojo, Solari, and then Tano comes in. Now Tano's out. It's just, I just kind of feel like something's got to give at this point, because I just feel like we're due. The team's due for something. But it's just, at the end of the day, it just seems like it's just staying still. It's stalling because not much is really changing within the team, within the institution.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's just one of those things where you kind of just hope everything clicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk defense, and it's a lot of developing players, right? It's not like they're coming in already developed with this plan. Maybe Araujo's the only one, right? That it's like, he came in already a veteran, but the player that we expected, or some of us probably already knew this was going to happen, right? But where everyone knows is kind of this development. It's just like it's like I'll put it in football terms, right? You draft a rookie, but you're not drafting that rookie for like instant impact. It's like, okay, let's see where he's at, and throughout the year they're gonna get better. It's not necessarily what we need on defense. I feel like we need a veteran presence that's gonna have that leadership, and I think you look at that last game of the season, and you're down one guy, and your coach isn't the leader, and then nobody on the field is the leader, and it's just you just don't see that emotion, right? And that's kind of the thing, the issue, right? That we need coming into this next season. What we need is that passion, right? That effort to come out when you're tired and you're just still going down, no matter you're still going up the field, right? Trying to score another one, even though you're up, and you're not just like defending and just letting everything just happen by itself.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree too, and I think that's something that's kind of been missing from this team. Obviously with the change between the goalkeepers at like after 7 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, between Jimenez and Malagon coming in. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, about that. It was somewhere around there. But even besides then, obviously you had Nestor, and you were kind of hoping, that Nestor to come in and be that veteran presence, that leadership presence, and it wasn't really there per se. Israel Reyes, took a while to kind of come around. Even then, he still had some of his bad moments. And not to mention that you're at times, at right back, you're gonna even either have Lada or Layun. It's just like, okay, well, do I have any other option when you really didn't? Um, and so it's really that whole back line just kind of comes into question a little bit too, because you don't really feel the sense of urgency from some of these players a lot of times. You don't feel the sense of like, okay, like like you kind of said, like even though you're up 1 goal or you're up 2 goals, trying to chase a third one or that second one or even a fourth one at that state, because uh, you're putting yourself in the position to just hold the lead instead of just trying to go out and put the game to rest.
Yeah, and a lot of the times it's the coach's fault, for stuff like that, right? Because
Mhm.
like I've been saying since our elimination, this is what made Piojo Herrera different. A lot of people just hated on Piojo because yes, it's very frustrating seeing that type of character outside of the field, and or even during the field, right? Where it's just like, bro, just do your job. But sometimes when you have a character like that as a coach, you see the motivation, right? And I'm not here to just like praise Piojo, but I'm trying to like point out that in our last two coaches, they didn't really have the character, right? They didn't have the charisma that, oh, you're down, or oh, the situation we're in is very ugly. We still have 30 minutes left. Like, they're gonna motivate you. You don't see that motivation from Solari or from Furtado, right? And
Right.
I think you need someone to sell you the idea of like, yo, I'm gonna be the leader. I'm gonna drive you guys there. Just listen to what I'm gonna say, and we're gonna win this. And I think that's exactly what we've been needing, and it's to fault players too, right? Because if the coach isn't exactly that, it doesn't change the fact that hey, you have a job to do, right?
Right.
But for me, it's just more like if those players aren't gonna step in, the first one that should be stepping up is the coach.
Right.
After the coach, it's the players, but before anyone else, it's the coach, and I think that's exactly what we've been missing, and that's the like we're gonna touch on the whole coaching job thing right in a bit, but that's why for me, my personal favorite candidate was Vasco Aguirre because I feel like he has that character, right, and I think that would have worked for us, and say like I think Solari and Tano, like as great as they ended up numbers wise, right? They just lack that character.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely agree too. And I think, looking back at the season, especially the beginning, it was really worrisome for me. Because you start the season off with 3 draws, if I'm not mistaken, 3 draws. Um, you have 3 draws, and then you get the win against Mazatlan. You win big, but that's kind of expected. Then you draw against Santos, and then you get 3 straight against Necaxa, San Luis, Tijuana. Again, I kind of think those are expected. And then after that, not too long after that, that's when you get punched in the mouth by Pachuca, and you're just like, well, great. Like, to me, it just didn't seem like it was going to go great. To me, the season seemed like it wasn't going to go the way anybody wanted to. But I think, to me, that's where the turning point was because and that's where I think Dano, in a sense, kind of started to light a fire under these guys to go on the run that they kind of did before the Liguilla. Because you go to the Volcan, if I'm not mistaken, against Tigres, and you punch Tigres in the mouth, you get the win. And then obviously you got Chivas, and then you do what you do. Wasn't it Akron whenever we played Chivas, Chris?
Yeah, because I
Yes.
remember their fans left early and all that.
Yeah, and so you do that, and then in a span of 4 weeks, you punch Tigres in the mouth. You do what you do on the road against your biggest rival, and then you punch Monterrey in the mouth. Even though I think by that point it wasn't really a chance for us to get first. But to
No.
do that in a span of 4 weeks, I think, to me, that's the turning point in the season. Because that's where you felt like the team was like really clicking. The team was had that sense of urgency, and like you kind of said, having that passion from your coach. And I think Donald brought it out in that time. It's just obviously at the end of the day, it lost steam, and especially in that second leg against San Luis, whenever got really worrisome at that point. Whenever what they scored like in the first 5 minutes, and then scored again like not too long after that. But it is what it is at the end of the day too.
And quick reminder, after that Pachuca game, that's when they take out Oscar Jimenez, and that's where Malagon debuts against Tigres, and
Yeah,
he
that's
does a
right.
good job, and we were able to just continue, right? Like we started winning games and we started playing good, and we weren't necessarily playing bad, right? Like I said, it's not the inside of the season, like where we're in season, it's not an issue. That really isn't the issue, like right? Like we had a horrible first half of the season, horrible from our standards, because it's not necessarily like we were losing games. We only lost that Pachuca game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So like it was just a bunch of ties that you should have won, and
yeah.
I
And then
think that also
like I
continue.
was saying, like you won games that you're supposed to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So, so the issue is like it's those ties, for example, right? You're supposed to win them, and it's like you don't lose, but you don't win, and it's just one of those things where like, well, if we're supposed to win these games, this is the easy part of our schedule. Who are we putting the blame on? Me, and I even put most of the blame on Oscar Jimenez, and I think it's fair, right, to put it because he's made a lot of mistakes. But with that being said, the coach still has to find the ways to win these games. You can't
Mm-hmm.
sit here and be like it's not the coach's fault. Like it is the coach's fault.
Right.
They weren't losses, but they felt like losses. And once they took out Malagon, it felt more like, oh, we're saving. Is the player saving it for him, right? Or
Right.
maybe I'm discrediting Tano a little bit too much, but my point is, it's you kind of see that that pattern in the Liguilla, right? You got that game against San Luis, very ugly, and it's like, okay, so coaching is costing us to play these type of ugly games, and then while I personally blame Fidalgo a little bit more than Tano for that Chivas game because it's just an ugly red, unnecessary. At the end of the day, like even if you're down by one guy, you still have a job to do, and that's you as a coach. You have to adapt to these situations, right?
Right.
And if you
Right.
go, it's 30 minutes left, and the first thing you do is I'm gonna defend completely, and your players look lost out there because they don't know what they're doing, they don't know their role. Well, look what happens, right? So
Yeah.
I think like this season, a lot of has to. You start off in the top, right, and then we could sit here and be selective on who else deserves blame. But I do think Tano is to blame, the main blame for this season.
Yeah, and I can agree with that too. And kind of moving off of the subject, because I think I kind of mentioned that Ruby playing um, uh, a game toward the end, but I think we can kind of fit it in as we kind of go along at this point. So I'll kind of bring up the first part of this. And my first question, are you buying or selling that Donald's resignation caught the board off guard, Chris?
Oh, I believe it. I believe it because one, I think me and Christian said it, and I agree with it. Right in our group chat, he said Thanos should be fired if we lose this series against Chivas, and I agreed. There's no excuses. Reminder: it happened to Piojo, and they weren't looking to fire him. It he lost to LAFC, and if it wasn't for him getting into that fight with that assistant, they don't fire him either. I think they were gonna stick to Tano, and I think him saying, "Oh, I'm out of here," caught him off guard. Mind you, he took all his assistants with him.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like this isn't a normal off season to begin with, right? Because you got league, the season starts early. You got League Cup, and then you have all the national team players all out. So it's one of these things where the front office needs to like just have everything ready to go, right? So I do think it caught them off guard. And then look how long it took them, 20 something days. That's almost a month to find another coach. Like, I do think that it caught them off guard. So I'll
Yeah.
buy.
No. So yeah, I think I agree too. Yeah, because it's even though there's multiple reports obviously out there that Jardin's going to be the next coach, nothing's still really official as of yet. Even though I'm checking Twitter right now to be sure that that is correct. It still goes to show that I think that Bino still doesn't really know what the hell he's doing. And it goes to show too that it did catches them off guard because they weren't ready to go out looking for another coach. They weren't ready to realize like, oh crap, like we have to find somebody, and then they still have to bring in all of their coaching staff too to go along with filling it. So it's kind of it's a rough time right now. It really is for the team and everything. But yeah, anything else, Chris?
No, just that's it. I do
Yeah.
think there's people that think Baños is a liar. There's a lot of the stuff he says that just kind of clicks with everything else that happens.
Yeah.
We'll get
Yeah.
more into the topics that you're gonna bring up, but
Yeah.
I think for the most part, from at least from that situation, I don't think he's lying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Well, I kind of want to go ahead and go off the subject since we kind of started this transition a little bit. But before we do, is there anything else you'd like to say? Regarding the season. How it kind of was as a whole, or um, even how the way it ended or anything.
Well, just the way it ended, I think I could speak for a lot of people that it was one of the hardest defeats that I can't say ever had because we've lost to them in these type of situations before, but the way it ended, the way the final was kind of playing off, right? I think after the first game, a lot of us already had us as winners, and personally, it just like it shattered my heart. I couldn't sleep if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I kept on like replaying that slide tackle from Fidalgo, and it just was very very hard to just accept, And luckily for us, from at least from our bragging rights situation, they don't win the final,
Hmm.
but it does become one of these things where it's like if we were eager to win a title, like now it's like there's no excuses. Like a lot of us said, if Hidalgo gets sold tomorrow, we don't care. Like it's one of those things where like now they have to win us over again. Now they have to go and prove them right because I don't think a lot of people have that belief in the front office, in the players, and the coach. To be determined. But yeah, it's just that. I feel like everyone else kind of agrees with that. I would like to think that, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think and from my perspective with all of it, I think I was more mad because I sat in the newsroom watching the game because we had our 10 o'clock, and while the 10 o'clock was going on, the game was on, and so I literally stayed behind after the show instead of just going home to hope they pulled it off. Just to see Chivas score that third one, and I just turned off the TV and walked out, and I was like, I can't believe I wasted my time waiting around for this. And so, and to be all honesty too, like I kind of went a little numb, and I've been numb since the Conca Champions final against Monterrey. After that, that was the last time I felt like really upset and was sad, and then since then it's just been kind of numb ever since. So I mean, I wouldn't say it didn't bother me as much losing to Chivas like that, but I was still mad because I wasted time sitting at the station instead of just coming home. So
I feel you.
Yeah, so there's my part in it all, but nevertheless, a lot of questions still remain that obviously we could talk about and touch on, especially with at this time of this recording, if you're listening at a later time, that no coach has been hired yet, and like Chris said, it's been about 20 days since the club has been managerless. I don't know what's going on because I'm pretty sure they've kind of reported already by now, shouldn't they, Chris, to at least start training somewhat?
They should be training. Well, they're leaving to a friendly this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but like they've been in Guapa, like training or somewhat doing something, right?
Yeah,
I think I don't know what, but
I think some of the people are kind of exaggerating. Not exaggerating. I understand why people kind of get bothered by personally, I didn't have an issue with them taking long for the simple fact that there's so many players. I read a number that I think 14 players, maybe I'm wrong in the number, but are with their national team. Like, it's so many players out with their national team that it kind of gave them that they could just go out, right, and just wait for the right candidate, like, I think that's why I didn't read the trip when it came to that.
Yeah, no, yeah, and especially since it's a busy summer too, because there's at least for the players that are Mexican, there's Nations League and then there's Gold Cup.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
and plus for the people that like national academy players, right? It's kind of like it's good that the coach is coming in. Like at least to see these academy players, like that's the first thing he's gonna see from these friendlies against Toluca, and I think Monterrey is the other one, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So me personally, I didn't really trip about all that. Like I think with these friendlies, you're gonna see nothing but academy player, maybe some veterans, but for the most part, it's gonna be academy. And like I said, there's people out there that really want this team to bring out academy players because the belief has been this club plays better when they have someone from the cantera that knows that were born into it.
Right.
Like we always win titles when we have those academy players, right? Raul, Diego Reyes, Edson, Lainez, Hugo Gonzalez, right?
Yeah.
Hugo Gonzalez, Ventura Alvarado, right? When he had a sub in over Paul Aguilar. Players like that, like, just historically, we always just do better when there's academy players out there, playing. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy from at least that perspective that, this coach might go in there and see them play first and have an idea of like, I like that youngster. He's going to go and get these minutes instead of this veteran player that people don't really like. For example, not official yet, but Viñas is going to León. Well, instead of bringing in someone, we give an academy player that chance, and they end up performing. You never know, right?
Right. No, I definitely agree. And let's kind of since you're talking about the manager perspective of seeing the youngsters playing in these upcoming friendlies that they're about to go on. Let's go ahead and start there because obviously that's kind of been a novella in itself. Obviously, and I'll reiterate this again because it's Thursday, June 15th, just after 6:00 in Texas. Just so y'all kind of get a perspective of the time that this is recorded for me. Nobody has been hired at America, but this in itself has been a novella in itself in terms of like Haradin, especially now at this time that we're recording, Haradin seems like it's going to be him with all the multiple reports coming out. But obviously, there's been a list of other coaches too: Diego Alonso, Greg Berhalter, Chris. Help jog my memory. Help me. Who are some other coaches that have been mentioned?
Aguirre supposedly.
Yeah.
Fernando Gago. I can't pronounce the other guy's name, but it's someone that Christian was really high on. It was
didn't he
Argentino.
Didn't he win Crespo too?
Crespo too.
Yeah, Crespo.
Robert Moreno. I don't know. It's some Spaniard. There's been a lot of names. Supposedly, Baños said they only interviewed like 5, and a lot of the ones that came out weren't necessarily like they didn't interview them, but I mean, I'm sure Alan Cervantes at one point was considered, but
right,
yeah.
So obviously, we'll stick here in the present time because it seems like it's going to be Haradin, but what was your kind of initial thought going into all of this, seeing all the names? Because it seemed like it was somebody new every day. After about a week since Dano resigned, it just seemed like it was somebody every day. Even Binders going to Europe to search for somebody, or looking.
In Argentina.
Yeah, in Argentina. Yeah, exactly. What was kind of your thought process leading into this? And whenever I mention this, and you talk about this, think of like Haradin not hired. Don't think of the reports that are out right now saying that he's going to be announced.
Me personally, I thought we were going to get this done really quick. I thought once Aguirre was announced and saying they already talked to him and whatnot, I was like, okay, like I think that's the right time. Many people may know, may not know, but he's an academy player, and he scored in that historic final against Chivas back in the 80s. He's so an academy player that has been in those situations, right? Who's historic in CONCACAF, historic for Mexico. He's a legend, right? So for me, it was one of those things where like, okay, like maybe his style of play isn't necessarily great. Maybe like they could, but in that game against Chivas, his style of play wins the game type of situation, right? And for me, it's just like, who is the closest thing? And like I said, cheerleader coaches. Who is the closest thing to a Piojo Herrera? Which I know a lot of people are probably going to roll their eyes and say, Piojo, why are you bringing him up? Like, he was awful. At the end of the day, he won titles for us, and he won he won in a very passionate way, and I think Aguirre brings you that exactly. A lot of people bring up the fact that Aguirre was a flop in Monterrey. He won a CONCACAF against us, and he played a really good World Cup of clubs, So for me, it was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, like I wouldn't mind him, and he was my favorite. Like when all the lists came out, I didn't want Diego Alonso. People talk about Tata in the national team, right? Diego Alonso was with a way better Uruguay squad and did worse than Tata, right? Tata's another guy that got rumored too, but was like a far, like, unlikely type situation. I didn't mind that because I said, you know what? Even though I'm judging Diego Alonso for his national team stuff, I wasn't gonna judge him from off of that. They said Osorio was another one that they named. I didn't mind that either because I think Osorio prepares his team right. I don't think he's passionate, but I do think he prepares his team right. Right, a lot of others talk about how he'd play players out of position, right? Well, he did that, and their players didn't do bad, or that bad. Like it could have been uglier. Yes, he hit the 7-0 and then all that. Those are ugly moments, but overall, it's not necessarily a bad, ugly thing, right, or a bad thing. And then who else am I missing from the candidates? Berhalter for me was just oh well, I'm down. Like that was just the way I seen it. I seen some people pissed off, and part of me was just kind of annoyed. But at the same time, I was just like, you know what? I'm down. If we're gonna have a clown fest, clown show, whatever, like I'm down. Whatever, bring him in. Like we did good with academy coaches. Like maybe we'll do good with him, right?
Right.
Like maybe I was just down with it. Like whatever. And then Uh, is it Jardinet, right?
Yeah, something like
I
that.
heard
Yeah.
so I seen someone say Jardinet, that it's with the Y instead of that's how you pronounce it. But with him, I like it because of what he did with the Olympic squad with Brazil. I don't know if you stayed up to watch those games because it was very late,
No.
very early, right? But that Brazilian squad played very, very good, attractive football and very organized, and that's the way I look at it, right? I think it's not fair to sit here and be like, oh, but with San Luis isn't spending money like we are. They don't have the quality that we have, and look
Right.
how he made us look in that uh, second leg, right?
Hmm.
So for me, I said, you know what? This is a coach that's probably organized, that knows, has an idea, who talked highly of Henry Martin and talked highly about Diego Valdez. So for me, it's like, you know what? And he's in the league. So I said, you know what? For me, he was my second best choice out of this. And if nothing weird happens, then I'm glad that he's our coach.
Okay, and we'll backtrack a little bit because I like how you mentioned that you didn't want Diego Alonso. So now keeping this in mind, and also going back a little bit and talking about the interview that Banos did on through the NM, Banos said that Diego was the only coach that rejected the club. Are you buying or selling that?
I think I'm selling that just because everyone else is reporting something else, right? I think for him, it's easier to just say, oh, nobody rejected us. Only one guy, but no one else rejected us. Like, imagine he says, yeah, all these people rejected us. Well, the criticism, right, is going to happen. And in that interview, he talked about how he does read all the stuff people say on Twitter and all that. And it's like, imagine he does say that all these people, mind you, Aguirre said that he was never interviewed for the position, and
Right.
that they never reached out. So maybe from that one, I do believe, but others, I do think that they probably did reject him.
Yeah, and um, speaking of that, and I'm kind of expanding and going a little broad here whenever I go off. I even said to you in the group chat is that and especially after you said that with Diego, the only one that's rejected us. I'm selling that too because I just don't see. I feel like whenever Vanos talk to these coaches, whenever he talks to these managers, I think whenever if he presented something to them, I don't think these coaches saw the project and said this is something I want. I feel like there's hardly anything, if anything at all, a project that's going to go into the Apertura. I just don't feel like there's nothing there. Like I said, if anything's it's small and nobody wants to tackle this, and I just feel like, especially now when you look at the past couple of years from the club and what the club has done, I mean, you're coming in, and I think most people know the expectations that are going to come with managing this club, and what the criticism is going to be if you don't achieve those expectations. And I don't think nobody wants to be part of that if there's little to no project being presented.
Yeah, and I also the way he said it is that it's pretty much him running the team. Like, he's choosing who's gonna stay and who's not gonna leave, right? Because he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to quote unquote rebuild, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't think Banos leaves anytime soon. I was watching ESPN I think yesterday, a couple days ago, and they brought up the fact that his wife and Emilio's wife are sisters, so it's like in the family type situation. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think their goal is, you're gonna work with us until a spot in the national team opens up, and now you could run stuff over there. And I think that's all it is. I think Banos. We're just gonna have to hope for the best. I know he gets a lot of slander, rightfully so, from me too. But sometimes these titles not being won isn't necessarily because of signings, right?
Mm.
Maybe we do go in talk into, like, deep into stuff, and we're like, why this and that? Why this player not leaving? This and that. But we're like sometimes we're like right there. Like this last Liga, we're right there. We could taste the glory, right? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen. Do you go and blame him? Maybe you do blame him for the way Dano left, but you don't necessarily blame him for what happened on the field. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, no, I can see that too, and I think if Ivan was here too, I don't think Ivan would necessarily defend Banos, but I think Ivan would go on to say that the club has no money to go out and actually buy Refresco. So, um, so
Yeah, and he
that's
even
really
point in the interview, he even talks about it. Like he says, like they asked him, so how does the money come in and out? And he's like, look, we can like they asked him, can you guys ask like ownership for more money? Like no, like whatever we pump out from like sales, right? Maybe jersey sales or sponsors or stuff like that. Whatever we get from there, that's what we use. So like whatever we have from all these stuff from a venue and all that winning, right? Because if you get you become champion, you win all that money, extra money, stuff like that. It's like that's where we get our money from. We can't go to ownership and be like, give me 3 million more for this player. And it's a frustrating thing because if you know Televisa, you know that the money's there. If they wanted to bring in like if they wanted to give a similar offer to what Messi got in Inter Milan, which is like TV rights and whatnot, right?
right,
They technically can do that, but they won't ever do it.
right.
And that's where a lot of people get frustrated, right? Or just I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that us as fans don't know, but I do think there's a lot of judgment that's correct.
Right, right. So basically, what you're saying too is the La Rosa de Guadalupe viewership is not doing nothing for us. So,
Nothing.
so tell all your abuelas and tias and moms to just stop watching it because it does
Turn
nothing
it
for us.
off. Exactly. Turn it off.
And so I think from here, Chris, we'll kind of shift. We've talked about the manager rumors. Again, reiterating as of this time, if you're listening to this tomorrow and someone magically gets hired, we don't know about it yet, obviously, because we're from the past, not the future. So shifting from the manager rumors to the player rumors, obviously, Kevin Alvarez, now signed. How are you feeling about this signing? Finally, something that we're happy about for this offseason.
Oh, can you repeat that again? My bad.
No, you're good. So obviously through all the manager rumors and stuff like that, and all that, we got obviously Kevin Alvarez signed to the team now, and so just talk about how that excitement is for you, even through all the manager drama at the moment.
Oh, yeah, man. I think it covers the most important role, right? I think, but like to bring up that interview from Banos, he kind of says, "Oh, you know that these positions don't really win you titles." But I think, like, if we're comparing to what we had Emilio Lara that couldn't cover, like, he couldn't just mark his guy, and like Layun, who, let's be honest, he's not a fullback anymore. Like once upon a time, he was playing as a left back, and now we have him on the right. And then you see an interview where he says, "Oh, I played my best football on the left side, but I'm on the right now." It's like, and I can't defend, and I can't cross, and it's like, okay, bro, like, these are the type of players that cost you championships and cost you games, right? I think Kevin Alvarez, who isn't great defensively, I'm being completely honest, he's not great defensively, but he is really good offensively. And that's his natural position, right? We're not playing someone that's out of position. We're not playing someone that is publicly saying, I don't like playing here. It's a guy that came out from their academy and played this position. And while he's more offensive than defensive, it's a guy that's not gonna, how do I say it? He's not gonna question why he's there. Like, you're
Right.
not gonna question it. He's gonna contribute. He's gonna do good, right? So it's an
Mm-hmm.
upgrade. And I'm excited, right? I think the backup should be an academy player.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think Layun should be moved up to right winger. We'll take Jurgen Damm's spot as a cheerleader, as a mascot. But like, yeah, I just think Kevin Alvarez is a great signing. And then just the price that we were rumored to sign him for.
So speaking of that price, you know, you buying or selling that the club didn't pay 11 million for Kevin.
Yeah, I buy that.
You
We
buy
didn't
that?
pay that much. Yeah, everyone said it, and then even Almada, because he's the one that came out and said, "Oh, we sold Kevin for 11 and Isais or whatever he came in to Toluca for 11," and everyone came out right away and said, "That's BS. Toluca paid 1 million, and America paid 4 plus Viñas that's gonna go to Leon." You know, it's not official yet because I guess it's technically part of a separate deal, but it is part of the same deal type situation.
Mm-hmm.
But still, there he said I don't 11 million, bro. Like I understand we believe that Mexican players are overvalued, but America's not gonna pay 11 million for. Mind you, we have 2 open spots for extranjeros. Like we could
Yeah.
have easily gotten someone cheaper, even for more cheap than 4. Like
Right.
so, I believe him when I believe Baños and I believe all the reports that we didn't pay 11 million. We paid maybe in total value. I don't know how much Viñas is valued at, but money wise, we did not pay 11 million.
Right. No, I agree with you too. I don't think 11 million is the right value. But I'm really excited for this signing too. To now that we have a proper player for the proper position. Even though I've always preached that sometimes you just got to be versatile in a sense, but we don't have players that are versatile at this point. So really happy for the signing to be able to come in and hopefully make a difference and help us fix the issues that we've always complained about in this back line a little bit more and clean it up and tighten it up. But with Kevin here now, obviously Chris, I just feel like we've kind of been just in the jumble of the manager rumors. Help me, John. Remember, are there any other players that you can kind of remember off the top of your head that have been rumored with the club?
Omar Campos, I guess
Mm-hmm.
that negotiations kind of been weird. Gibran has been kind of inconsistent these past few days, right? Because he said it
Yeah.
4 months ago that he's our player, but for some reason we're not finalizing that.
Mm-hmm.
He did say that Santos is waiting for an offer from Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and if they don't find anything, he's gonna come with us. But then Cesar Caballero, because I was watching the Jorge Ramos and Subanda, right? So I guess he dropped names there that he didn't tweet out. But he said that the club isn't prioritizing the left because they're comfortable in a youngster that could compete for that, and that he might win the starting job in these friendlies. And then they renewed Fuentes for 6 months, so Chava Reyes might be out. Then again,
Yeah.
he's been played as a left wing, and Roger just left, so it might be between him and Mauro Lainez, who returned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then hold up, I can't pronounce it. I suck with names, bro. So we're linked to these are Mexican players. I don't know if they were formados in Mexico, so I don't know if they take a foreigner spot or not. But his name is Benjamin. Was it Benjamin Galdames? Which is he plays in Chile. He's a Chile Mexican. And then Luca Martinez Dupoy, who I'm sure if you're a
Mm-hmm.
Mexico fan, you've heard that name a lot, which is a Mexican but Argentino, right? But he chose to
Right.
play for Mexico. They both chose to play for Mexico.
Right.
And his dad played in America, and he played there in Toluca. He played in Tigres, and I think San Luis. But he has said that he would like to play for America. From what I, from what Cesar Caballero said, he said that they both been contacted, but that the boy is the closest to arriving at the club. There's no advanced negotiations, but if it were to happen, like between those two, if one were to happen, he would be the one to step up. Uh, I think it shows. I think it shows the salary of that we're talking about of what we could spend and whatnot. I think it's hard. It's hard to really, I guess, be mad at those type of signings. You just kind of hope that the promise becomes a guarantee and we end
Right.
up doing good, right? That's all you pretty much. Now we take a foreigner spot for those players. I do get kind of bothered by that because I think foreigner spots need to be valued for game-changing players, not promises, and that'll be my only issue when they come in and they're taking foreigner spots.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely agree. So obviously, we touched on Kevin. Kevin's here. Then really just three other players after that. Do you feel like we're making the right? Well, obviously Kevin's the right signing, I think. But these players that we linked with too. Say if we do sign them, do you feel like they're the right signings to replace? Because I feel like we've let more go than we're possibly bringing in at this point.
I'll say this: I think the only player that left in that hurts us is Pedro Aquino because he's the only natural five. He's the only natural defensive mid. Now, if you're a believer in Santiago Naveda, right? Because, let me remind you, when he was healthy and Pedro Aquino were healthy, he was beating him out for the job, right? Like I even said, like he reminds me of a young Herman Villa. Not
Mm-hmm.
saying that he's better than him or anything, but his style of play reminded
Mm-hmm.
me of Herman Villa. So if you believe that he could get back into that form, then we might like be okay. Now, if you talk about right, so Benjamin comes in or Dupoy comes in, who are they replacing? Well, Roger Martinez. Well, what was your take on Roger Martinez? Were you a fan of his? If you were, then maybe you're not. He's not. He's not the right guy to come in and replace him, right?
Right.
If you're a fan of Viñas, like you probably don't like Dupoy, right? Because his numbers aren't necessarily anything great, but it is it's a gamble. It's like buy these stocks and see if I make more money out of it type situation. For
Right.
me, I think Pedro Aquino is the only one that you kind of do, depending on what the coach wants, right? If you want a natural five, you can. Pedro Aquino can say whatever you want, but he is one of the better fives in the league, and Naveda would have to step up if we have to play with a defensive mid. And then the other guys, well, they're not starting. They're gonna compete or they're gonna come in as subs if Valdez is injured or if it's Henry Martin, for example, he won't be here for the beginning of the season. So we're gonna
Right.
need him and Lozano and Roman Martinez, right?
Yeah.
Step up.
And Novella's coming back from Poland, right?
Yeah, Poland, and also Dagoberto
Yeah.
Espinosa, I think that's it, right? Him
Yeah.
too, which I believe he's a center mid, like Fidalgo and Richard.
Richard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if he's going to go straight to the first team or he's going to go into the academy again, right? Or he's going to get loaned out. I don't know the situation. I'm sure they're going to analyze all that when it comes to these friendlies. But hey, like I said, if you're a fan of academy players getting chances, then these are the games that you kind of hope they impress. So it's like, okay, like I could use that guy. And
Right.
like also like Jardine, right? If it ends up being him, he's a guy that did really good with the Brazilian squad in the Olympics, right? And they were all youngsters. Well, it's at three players, but for the most part, they were youngsters.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you do see you see someone come out of all of this, and it could be them, right? It could be Naveda, it could be Dagoberto, it could be Lara, it could be someone we haven't even seen, but yeah.
Right. And so I go to my next um, buy or sell here for you, Chris. Now that we talked
Okay.
about, the managers, the players rumored to come back, and obviously with like Naveda coming back and the two other players too. But in an interview too with Banos and on through the NM, he said Donald said the team needed a new face in charge and for a coach, and 2 to 3 players didn't believe in the project anymore. Are you buying or selling that?
I don't know, bro. I think that I'm kind of 50-50 on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to see, because I don't know if you remember in some of these games, the locker room looked so like it reminded us of that 2018 team, right? Where we beat it Cruz Azul. It was 18, right? 2018.
Yes.
Like they just look united. They just look like a family. And so they here and be like, oh, there's 2-3 players that didn't just believe in the project or him anymore. It's like something must have happened within that game or a little bit before that for him to say that, like.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I buy it, but it's hard to like be like, oh, you're lying, because I think he doesn't. It's not necessarily a lie that needs to be said type thing,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, Thanos quit. Like,
Yeah.
if he did, like, there's there's no reason for him to lie about that.
Yeah.
You know.
Man, I'm kind of on the same boat with you. I mean, because we talked about it too. As a coach, you got to figure out a way to help your team, to guide your team to victory. And I said, after the Pachuca game, I felt like that was a turning point in terms of the club and the team playing on the field. I mean, regardless, before the Pachuca game, obviously we won games, but we also drew games we should have won. But we won games that we should have obviously be winning regardless. But I mean, like for you, like you kind of said, it's hard because I feel like in that time they freaking just went off, and they felt like they could do anything at that point. But then the Gia came, then you kind of see it fall apart and everything. So it's kind of hard to buy that for me too. But I'm not really letting to sell it either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, bro. Maybe they just hit it from the fans. It is possible. And then you see how they played, right? Once Fidalgo got the red, and it's like, whoa, what do we do? So
If I
maybe
had
they just didn't believe.
if I had to guess, man, I think Roger and Aquino were at least 2 players that didn't believe in the project anymore. I feel like that's why.
I kind of
where
think
they're
it was
gone.
Henry Martin too, bro. I think, and
Really?
not that he didn't believe in it, but Tano throw shade at him. Like I don't
Yeah.
know if you saw the interview when he arrived in Monterrey saying Funes Mori is miles better than Henry Martin, and I think
Yeah.
I looked at it as shade. Like, why are
No. Yeah.
you? Like,
Why
you
would
could
you?
have just said they're both great players, and I'm excited to play with another great player or train another player, right? But it was like, oh, he's miles better. And for me, it was like, you can have your opinion, but it's like you just came from having a professional, but to an extent, a personal relationship with him, right? You don't throw shade when he went to war with you in the field unless there's something there, right? So I would assume it's Henry Martin too. And I mean, I always feel like Yoon is involved in these things. So I don't know if Layun was involved, but Layun just feels like a guy that's always involved in these type of
Yeah.
like things.
Yeah. No. I completely forgot about that. What Donald said about Funes Mori and Henry. So I could definitely agree with that and see how Henry might have. I don't think not believing in the project, like you kind of said, is the right word, but to just kind of like give up on Donald in a sense to be like, I don't care if this dude leaves or stays. But he probably leaned more into like, I want him gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I can see Oscar Jimenez being one of the. I feel like there's some players that are just leader of the team that we don't really realize, and I think Oscar Jimenez is probably a leader in that locker room.
Yeah.
And maybe him getting benched was like one of those things where like, oh, I'm not okay with this. I don't believe in his project. Malagón isn't the guy, you know. Plus, we've seen him be bitter in training, right? Where that famous quote from Paul Aguilar saying, "Look at his face because Memo's coming" or something like that.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, but
So yeah,
man, I mean, here we are. I mean, still managerless. Kevin so far the only signing that the club has had. I mean, what an offseason it's been.
a lot of
What?
players back on loan.
Yeah. I mean,
A lot of
we
players
mentioned
back on
three of them.
loan.
We mentioned three of them at least.
Naveda,
Yeah,
Dago, Lightness.
yeah,
I think that's it. I mean, there's probably other academy players coming back, but you don't really highlight them because they're not on big contracts.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
But I mean, the preseason's around the corner, and obviously a lot of the players too are on international duty. So
I
it's
forgot
just kind of.
to add Mere and Otero.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
I forgot to mention them, but I think they're not. They're gonna find the spot. They're gonna
yeah.
be
They'll
loaned out.
probably move on. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're probably gonna say screw this. They're the two that don't believe in the project.
oh yeah, and we don't
Yeah.
believe in. They never really got a chance, but I mean, I seen them both play a little bit, and they're really bad, awful signings.
Yeah, so, I mean, here we are. I still remember whenever we announced Ortero. I mean, I don't think Ivan was happy about that one. So,
The first player to be a flop before he even stepped on the field because no one gave him a chance at
no,
all. Like we gave Insaurralde a chance, you know, like we kind of whatever. We have a good tag team with
respect
him. It was
him,
like,
respecting Solar. I can't believe you brought him up.
hey, that's true though. You know, he was a very likable locker room guy, but he wasn't that great.
Man, no respect, Chris. I still remember whenever he scored, and that didn't he like tear up because because he
He
knew he
was
was just
leaving.
a meme for the clip.
I think he was leaving too. No, like I remember everyone was
um,
like, "Oh, he should have gotten more chances," and in my head, I'm like, "Bruh." Like
uh,
we got Linus right there. Why would he play?
oh yeah, I think Ivan was just so like, this dude wears glasses. Like, how can he pass when he's on the pitch?
You know, he still goes out with goggles.
Oh my gosh. Oh god, man, fun time right there. I wish he'd come back. To be honest,
That's when you guys first started podcasting, right?
no, we started podcasting. I was still in college. It had to be like 2017.
Oh, well, it's around the same time, right?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
I mean, that was 2018. That's 2017. It's around the same time, I would guess. And back when Christian used to smile. I watch some of the old videos and I see him smiling all the time. Now he doesn't even look at the camera.
Oh my god. Oh man. Back when we were a little more consistent too, and we actually had more time because like I was in school, Christian was in school, Ivan was
Ivan
in
wasn't a DILF.
oh my gosh. Anyways, I think that's where it ended right there. We'll end it right there. Chris, anything else to add on regarding the club, the state of the club?
Just make sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. You know, we got you with any news. Shout out to the women's team for being champions. I think AJ would be mad if we don't bring that up. He probably wouldn't care, but I think if he does get mad, then let's make sure he doesn't get mad.
No, yeah, that was really fun to watch. What was I doing? I think I was at work whenever they won it. So I had to watch it from work on the live stream, and then like I rushed home just in time to see them lift the trophy. So shout out to them. Obviously, the second one that I've witnessed. Um, witnessed the feminine team lift it. I think the first one was 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. I know it was pre-pandemic. I think I was at the club watching that. So I can
At
never
the club, turning
yeah,
up.
yeah. I can never be sitting at home watching either team. So I mean, I'm doing something at this point, either at work or with the neon lights. But yeah, shout out to the women's team. Um, big for them. Honestly, made me forget about the way that things ended for the ravioli side. So um,
Yeah, I agree completely. I was hyped, man. Like I think I won't say I'm a diehard because I'm nowhere near AJ, right? I'm very ignorant, clueless to the players, but whenever you see anyone represent the club that you love, you're always gonna be happy for them,
right,
and I watched it. I wish they showed it on public TV. That's one thing I'll say is I think having to watch it through their YouTube with no commentary is very turn offish. But end of the day, you watch it, you see how hyped the ladies were, and how hyped the crowd was, and in Azteca, right? I always
right.
complain whenever they played in that high school field. I used to get so mad because like, bro, they represent us. Why are they not playing in the Azteca, right? And
Oh yeah,
I'm
a
ha-
lot of times they wouldn't play me. I think it's because Cruz was playing that night or whatever.
yeah. See, and for me, it's just like that's bad scheduling and stuff. Like, come
And
on.
another reason why Cruz needs to have their own stadium and get the hell out of the Azteca already.
Yeah, send them to the high school field, bro. Send them
For
over
real.
there. But yeah, I'm happy about that. Very happy. Shout out
Yeah.
to the women, and shout out to AJ for always being on his ish when it comes to the women's team.
No,
I
yeah,
can't say
most
the
definitely.
other word because that one would beat me up.
No, definitely, Chris. Definitely, shout out to the ladies. We love to see it. The Segundas and Guapa for the ladies, and hopefully they'll work to get lifting the third one pretty soon. I don't see why they couldn't or why they shouldn't here pretty soon. But yeah. Anything else, Chris? Before we head out?
No, I mean we'll be talking. We'll be back probably in a couple weeks, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
friendlies, a lot of football that we're going to be playing this upcoming season. We got Leagues Cup, we got CONCACAF, we got. Well, I don't even know if it's CONCACAF this year, right? It's not this. When is CONCACAF? Is it this season
I
or
thought it was next year.
okay? Then it's next year. Forget CONCACAF. But either way, Leagues Cup for the listeners that are here in the states. Hopefully they go to your city and we're able to play, go see them, right? And season, regular season, it's gonna be a long season, but hopefully at the end of this we do lift the 14, something we all want. And I think if it's Jardine, I think it's very possible. Very organized coach, and I think he knows the quality of players that he'll have in his hands.
Right. Nope. I definitely agree. Hopefully, something will come about. And like I said, because doesn't the season start here pretty soon? Like, isn't it right around the
Yeah,
corner?
really soon. And then there's gonna be a break for the Leagues Cup.
Yeah, because the League Cup. Yeah, yeah, because the
Yeah,
League Cup's next month. Starts next month. Yeah.
yeah. So it's gonna be one of those things. We're gonna start the season without the Copa Oro players, which would be Israel, Henry, Malagon,
Malagonia.
and who else? That's it, right?
Yeah, I
Is
think
there
so.
anyone else? Yeah.
No.
So, and Sendejas, who's gonna be representing the U.S.
Oh, the U.S. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're gonna probably see some new faces starting, some old faces starting, and let's hope we start the season strong because of that. There should be no excuses, and yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in to this episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. I am Dylan and joined with Chris, and we'll catch you all on the flip side. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.